Today, we're diving deep into the conflict that's tearing Sudan apart. And to really get why this war is happening now, we need to understand its roots. A story that, believe it or not, starts more than 70 years ago.
So that's the big question, right? Why is a nation at war with itself? Well, the answer isn't just some simple power grab. The fighting you see today is actually the final explosive result of divisions that were created decades ago. We're going to trace that entire path to see exactly how we got here.
Okay, so on the surface, the fight is between these two groups. On one side, you've got the Sudanese Armed Forces, or SAF. That's the official state army led by General al-Burhan. And on the other side, the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, which is this huge paramilitary group led by General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, who most people just call Hemedti. But how in the world did Sudan end up with two rival armies in the first place? That's where this story really begins.
To find the real root of this division, we have to rewind the clock, way back, all the way to the 1950s, right as British colonial rule was coming to an end. The decisions made back then, well, they put Sudan on a collision course with itself for decades. The British used this classic cynical playbook, divide and rule. They purposefully fanned the flames of tension, creating these deep administrative and cultural splits between the northern and southern parts of Sudan. And the goal? It was simple, really. Make sure the Sudanese people were too busy fighting each other to ever unite against foreign influence. This wasn't just a policy. It was literally planting a time bomb right at the heart of the new nation.
And guess what? That time bomb went off almost instantly. In 1955, even before formal independence, the First Sudanese Civil War kicked off. It was a brutal 17-year war that cost more than 500,000 lives. And even when it ended in '72, the peace was paper thin. Those divisions were still there, festering, and they led directly to a second Sudanese Civil War in 1983. This legacy of division became the backdrop for, well, everything that happened next.
So this long, painful history of conflict basically sets the stage for the next major player to walk in. A guy whose actions would be like pouring gasoline in an already raging fire. President Omar al-Bashir.
In 1989, Bashir grabs power in a military coup. He inherits a country that's already just broken, exhausted and fractured by that long-running civil war in the south. But his problems? They were about to get a whole lot worse.
Okay, so you have to understand the dilemma Bashir is facing. He's got the national army tied up, trying to crush the rebellion in the south. But then, a brand new fire starts in the western region of Darfur. The army is stretched way too thin. He can't fight two wars at once. So he makes this incredibly risky, fateful gamble. He decides to arm and bankroll local Arab militias in Darfur, known as the Janjaweed, to basically be his proxy fighters.
But this gamble, it wasn't a solution. Oh no, it was the beginning of a whole new, much scarier problem. Bashir had basically outsourced his war, and in doing so, he created a monster that would soon grow beyond his control.
And these guys, the Janjaweed, were terrifyingly effective. They unleashed a wave of terror in Darfur, committing horrific atrocities against civilians, and all of it, reportedly, with Bashir's direct blessing. They became infamous for their cruelty, but for Bashir, they were a useful, if horrifying, tool.
This is where things get really wild. Hemedti, the leader of the Janjaweed, strikes a deal with Bashir. In exchange for getting official legal status and a ton of state funding, Hemedti promised his loyalty. But here's the kicker. He also promised that his forces would protect Bashir from a coup by the regular army. Think about that. Bashir is literally creating a private army to watch his own military.
And just like that, it's official. The notorious Janjaweed militia gets a rebrand. They're now the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF. They were formally brought into the state apparatus, turning a brutal proxy militia into a legitimate state-funded parallel army.
And man, did they get powerful. Just look at this. By 2019, the RSF, bankrolled and equipped by the state, had grown so massive that its strength was nearly equal to the official Sudanese armed forces. In his quest to protect his own power, Bashir had created a perfect rival to his own military.
So now you've got two massive rival armies operating within one country. A collision wasn't just likely, it was absolutely inevitable. The spark that finally lit the fuse came in 2019 with a nationwide revolution.
The year is 2019. The people of Sudan have had enough. They rise up, demanding an end to Omar al-Bashir's 30 years in power. And this forced a choice for both the army and the RSF, Stick with the dictator or side with the people.
And in the biggest twist of all, the monster turned on its master. Both the army and Bashir's own creation, the RSF, turned against him. You can just imagine Bashir thinking, wait a minute, I created you to protect me, not to help kick me out. But Hemedti saw his chance. By joining the revolution, he could grab a seat at the very top of the new Sudan.
So Bashir's out. But now what? You're left with this completely unstable, impossible situation. You've got General al-Burhan, the army chief, and Hemedti, the RSF leader, trying to share power in a transitional government. But let's be real, that was never going to work. You can't have two powerful generals, each with their own giant army, peacefully coexisting. It was a ticking clock.
So when you see the news today about the war in Sudan, it's so important to realize this isn't just a conflict that started in 2023. What we're watching is the final, heartbreaking act of a tragedy that's been playing out for over 70 years.
Let's just walk through it one more time, because the chain of events is just so clear. It starts with colonial divide and rule in the 50s, which leads to decades of civil war. That chaos allows Bashir to seize power, who then creates the Janjaweed to solve a problem. That militia becomes the powerful RSF, which then helps overthrow its own creator, leaving two armies fighting for control until, boom, war explodes. Every single step led right to the next.
And through all of this, the colonial games, the civil wars, the brutal dictators, the power struggles between generals, who pays the ultimate price? Every single time, it's the Sudanese people. They've had to endure more than 70 years of nonstop instability, violence, and heartbreak. They are the true victims in this devastating cycle.
The war today isn't just a fight between two generals. It's the bitter harvest of seeds that were planted decades ago. And it leaves us with the most difficult question of all. After so much tragedy, after 70 years of this, what on earth will it take to finally break the cycle for good?